Oh, the picture's not centered in the frame. You're just gonna have to suffer. Hey all, it's been a minute or 2,000. I've started like 4 scripts over the last year and a half with that joke. It's only getting more and more relevant. In 2022, I watched more than 1 film a week by numbers, and I had the intention of making that into a video where I ranked them all in a list for your entertainment.
I'd rather eat Sonic's chili dog dookie.
For one reason or another, I just didn't end up liking that video very much, and by the time I had the moxie to work on it fully, it was February and irrelevant. But this year, I'm pushing past my anxieties, so forgive this lower production video. I've got some script notes here, and I'm just gonna read through 7 good films and 7 shit films from 2023. Partially as an excuse to learn spreadsheet functions, I gave each film I watched this year for the first time a score from a low 1 to a high 7. I call this the Lucky Melon Matrix. I won't get into the scores of each film on this list because I'm fickle, they change every day, and I'd rather you hold me to the merits of my critique than some number I made up. That said, I can tell you scientifically that this year was just above mid, painfully average. Most of the 2023 films fell above or below my middle ranking. Which means I had a lot of candidates for this list. Real camel hump year. Personally, I liked the idea of Anno's cold piousness layered on top of this franchise, but yeah, this doesn't work for me. The only humans in the film are the production team, faithfully recreating and subtly lampooning low production elements of the original series, moving at a pace so breakneck it's like they thought the audience was wind-powered too. It almost arrives at the strange veil between utter absurdity and sincere melodrama where stuff like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure lives, but misses the exit. For the record, I liked Shin Ultraman a little bit more, but only because of this guy, and if he wasn't in it, I would probably like that one even less. Let's hop over to the good movies. Originally, I ranked John Wick Chapter 4 a bit higher on this list. The idea of writing or saying anything about those films intimidates and bores me. Maybe if you watched more than the first film, unlike me, you might find this one a little bit tiring. It's very long. I'm still in for Keanu's Bloodsport, and the fact that I didn't see 2 and 3 didn't hamper the experience of this one. Without further insight than that, I'm bundling it down here with all the other films that don't need my praise. They have the dollars. Mario is a super safe theme park ride about as deep as a petri dish. Wahoo! That's all Super Mario Bros. Is. Guardians 3 I also had higher on this list at one point, but it gave in to its worst comedic instincts, letting the actors ad-lib jokes into the ground. It also felt like it had to reconcile this being the Rocket Raccoon movie with this being the last Guardians movie. I don't know if it'll be the last one, but certainly the last one with James Gunn, and I'm sure the production was thrown off by James Gunn's temporary unhiring. I caught myself saying unhiring as it was going. That's not a word. He was fired. Temporary firing. Goodness. Again, apart from Mario, I would rank these 2 movies higher on this list, but I don't want you to all think I'm basic. I watched more than the most popular movies this year. I'm not getting rid of all my insecurities yet, okay? And on that note, I am now here to award the number 6 spot to a movie I'm pretty sure nobody has seen. Cool. This is a biographical fake documentary and drama about how Gentleman's Quarterly writer Roger Sharpe helped overturn a ban on pinball in New York City in the 70s. In the world of the doc, which we are seeing sort of mid-production, present-day Roger recounts his role in the case, interjecting into scenes, providing context, and pulling away the curtain where creative liberties were taken in the story, even battling the producers for what to include. All those gimmicks are rife with potential in all kinds of films, but the usage here is intentionally sparse. The bulk of the film tracks the relationship between Roger and his girlfriend. This knowing subterfuge of what would attract many people to this person and the historical blip of the pinball ban is lampshaded in multiple ways, culminating in a moment that really tied everything together for me. This movie is absolutely cute. If it were a snack, it would be caramel and cheese popcorn. I don't get to say this often. He's literally me. I'm a writer. I game too much. I had a mustache. I'm also dating an older woman with a son. Well, multiple, but you know.
There is no life I know.
Wonka reads like the origin story a sycophant of Willy Wonka would write about Willy Wonka. He came from nothing with the world against him, and he went on to be a very successful factory owner. There's a darkness from Roald Dahl in the old film that's missing. While the callbacks to the 70s edition were cute, making all the eccentric and memorable moments of Gene Wilder's performance things Wonka snagged from people in his orbit is a bit sad. Wonka is exploited into indentured servitude by a contract he can't read, which he then implements in his factory later? Wonka chocolate. Fuck you, got mine. The only performances worth talking about are Grant, who is underused, and Big Tim, who affects a measured whimsy. He's saddled with far more singing than he's capable of in a musical with no memorable tunes, save the ones it borrowed. To quote my brother, I felt like I was watching Timothy Chalamet playing a teenager playing Willy Wonka. I think that's the best descriptor for this film. Big high school energy. I know his name is actually Timothy Chalamet, but my girlfriend keeps pronouncing it Timothy Charlemagne, and now I can't get it right. Chevalier. The film opens with a fictional encounter between Joseph Boulogne and Mozart. This is borrowed from a time when Jimi Hendrix went up on stage with Cream and outshred their guitarist. It's an odd choice and sets the expectation that this movie is going to be bonkers, but it levels out from there. I wish the movie focused more on what Joseph accomplished more than what he didn't, namely this Paris opera thing that he gets up to. Joseph Boulogne was such a cool guy. I hope a better movie comes along that synthesizes something good out of this guy's life, because this thing is so boring. Months out from watching, I can't tell why I don't like Nimona more. Its medieval punk future world is unique. The acting from its titular shapeshifter is frenetic and entertaining. There are gay knights. Maybe it's the lack of meaningful opposition via a rote and obvious villain, or the story's predictability weighing down an original film in other aspects. But gosh dang it, if lovable gremlin Nimona doesn't carry it, the animation, the acting on display here is phenomenal. Her full-chested embrace of villainy is great fun, imbued with undertones of the LGBTQ community's reclamation of deviancy for poignance. Be magic, do crimes.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm like dog, but I still in the party. Big girl, if I'm ready to win.
Yeah, Barbie isn't hurting for praise, but I left it out of the bundle because if you asked me during the credits, I would have been amicable to calling this my film of the year, and just relieved no chuds jumped up and screamed about misandry. I feel a touch of hostility to what Barbie foretells, a future where brands are openly evil with some targeted self-flagellation to co-opt criticism. Then again, that's a tale as old as capitalism, so I don't know what I'm on about. Even as the potential vanguard for worse films, I can't deny I had a laugh and a half. It has the energy of an early 2000s fantasy film, complete with practical effects and sets, a great sense of anarchic humor, and a baseball bat critique of patriarchy. And yes, I'm Just Ken is going on the men playlist with Be a Man and the Pokemon theme song. You know what the game about holding out against mechanical monstrosities in a sleep paralysis nightmare was missing? Child custody disputes. Five Nights at Freddy's. This movie can't wait to dip the pizzeria to shadowbox its caricature of a welfare queen more of a cartoon than the animatronics. The puppets are charming in their practicality, something the film trades for any sense of horror. I've heard for FNAF fans, a big part of the appeal of these games is the lore, the mystery, the secrets, and I can't understand how, if that's what you like, this movie would appeal to you. For me, the core of FNAF is being strapped in a chair and force-fed your own demise. The narrative is a cryptic bonus I'll let the FNAF equivalent of VaatiVidya explain if all other YouTube content is deleted. So lately I've heard criticisms of Shin Godzilla, that, yeah, the focus on the government and the absence of people in the movie makes it feel kind of hollow. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's about that you're only seeing things from the top down. It feels so brutal. But if that aspect really turned you off, I think you will love Godzilla -1. It is the intellectual opposite of Shin Godzilla, just on the basic level. It's all about the people, and the government is this sort of nebulous storm throwing things into chaos. Some of the non-Godzilla sections drag, and it's a sausage fest. There are like 3 female characters I can think of, and they're really just motivations for the main character. Normally when we see Godzilla, you see like the army coming up with tanks, and oh, they're gonna get their butts kicked. But this time, they've got like nothing. And they're just going to try and defeat Godzilla with their own personal skills that they have developed, trying to bring their community out from the rubble of World War II. It's just a like beautiful, I would call some of these sequences. I have a couple habits when struggling to write a review. For something good, I usually just explain what happens and go, that's neat. For films that are bad, my quarrel is typically finding things to cut. I can talk forever about movies I don't like. I don't want to explore what that says about me. Then there are films like We Have a Ghost, where I struggle to remember what even happened. It was like a 90s family film throwback, like Harry and the Hendersons, but my grandma's dead, so I'm not forced to watch it. But instead, like looking over at this list, seeing this film, I think about how hungry I am right now while writing that. I was really hungry. You ever have like when you're hungry and you start to feel like a tension like in your neck or throat? Like in Iron Man 2 when he had that blood poisoning and he had to take that thing, like that visual, like but to a much lesser extent is like how I visualize that feeling. I had an upper endoscopy this year, and the doctor was like, you have mild gastritis. Take the medicine you've already been taken. Bye. And I was too anesthesiaed to like question anything further about that. So I don't know. I think I'm okay. Or he probably would have said something. But like GI doctors are so hard to get a hold of. Like they just keep like, I don't know if it's the food that we all eat or what, but they're so busy. Like you have to schedule 3 months out in advance. Stinky poo. Boy, these Star Wars films keep getting worse, huh? As the MCU's post-Endgame run races towards maximum mid, Ant-Man goes a layer shittier. Not that Ant-Man, in all Paul Rudd's genuine chops, had that much unique in the first place beyond the MCU's most visually inventive power set. He's not the funny one. Everyone is the funny one. No one is bringing even their C game to the acting table. I've been informed Jonathan Majors can act. He made the choice not to for this iteration of his character. I genuinely don't remember Evangeline Lilly doing anything but mug to the camera, and I'm not totally sure I'm just thinking of Endgame. What level of assetry is your movie on when a Bill Murray cameo is the worst part? Spider-Man! Again, this is another one that doesn't need my praise, and before this movie get too smug about it, 2.5 hours of spectacle leading up to a gotcha twist sequel tease will degrade this film if the finale flubs it. That seems unlikely though, unless the animators burn the studio in glorious revolution. I do think this franchise is getting towards being kind of what Lord of the Rings was for fantasy films. It's this monumental, stars-aligned tour de force of animation that is pushing the industry forward. I eagerly await to do this one last time. Pieces of gold, straddling paper. Oh, I'm a firm believer in the maxim that you are only as good as your ending. And as a matter of dialectics, when you finish saving the world asks, what if the ending is the only good part? So I was looking at a list of movies from this year that I hadn't heard of, and I saw written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, and I was like, It's about a mother and her teenage son's strained relationship. The son is sort of this musician streamer who tries to woo his politically active classmate. It's a frankly scathing interpretation of the kind of insincere YouTuber who's convinced themselves that their work is life-changing and politically conscious, but they're too dumb to see how vapid they are. The mother works at a women's shelter. She tries to bond with someone else's son, convincing him to go to the college she wants her son to go to. 100% scuzzball saturation in our leads. Finn Wolfhard goes to this open mic night that the girl he's into is at. She has written a poem, a politically charged poem to read. Afterwards, he's like, that's cool. Can I have this? She's like, you want my poem? All right. He gives it to him. He takes it, he goes home, and he jerks off while reading it. Yeah, there was no salvaging this one for me after that. While the conclusion of the film tearfully evoked the moments in youth where I felt I had no one to turn to but mom, it is in no way redemptive. 90 minutes of two unlikable creeps making the most embarrassing decisions possible. A Gen Z versus Boomer arms race of weapons-grade cringe. The only good thing about this movie is the ending, and that's largely because there is no movie after it. I joked to my brother that the film would open with the protagonist declaring with shonen aplomb he was going to be the greatest saxophoner in the world. After my accurate prediction, I settled in for some terribly generic musical antics. This left me unguarded for the sucker punch to my emotional core. The musical sequences so perfectly capture the rush of mixed emotions I've experienced performing for an audience. The anxiety before the first note, the vicious self-critiques as the smallest thing goes awry, the thrill, the pure joy of seeing or participating in something new. Suffice it to say, if you've had any history in performance, be it theater or music or both, this is gonna hit. The drummer in this film, he could have been the main character. I liked him more than the main character, to be honest. What a all-time homie. I don't think I can count on my fingers the number of times I've felt proud for a character's growth. I was sitting there you fucking did it, man. I'm trying to think how many times that has happened in any form of media. I can't. He starts off not even being interested in music. He's just kind of sees his friend perform and starts to get into it, and he grows from knowing nothing about drumming to just God, it's so good. The waves of animation styles contributed by numerous studios infuse the performances with abstract energy and enormous gratification that makes Blue Giant both a sight and sound to behold. The CG characters don't always mesh well with the otherwise excellent 2D world, and I don't know why the film uses generic moving anime music during its band member melodrama instead of an all jazz score, but that is not enough to chill the heat of this burning star. Okay, that's it. I did not write a conclusion for this.